Pripyat was a city built for the future, for families, for engineers, for the promise of progress. Children played in parks while their parents worked at the nearby nuclear power plant, the pride of the Soviet Union. But in the early hours of April 26, 1986, the city's heartbeat was abruptly silenced. A routine night shift at Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Station would spiral into the worst nuclear disaster in human history. No alarms, no warnings, just a ticking time bomb that would alter lives forever. The Soviet dream. In the 1970s, the Soviet Union was building a dream. Nuclear power promised clean energy, technological supremacy, and a future unlike any other. Pripyat was the jewel in that crown, a model city for engineers and scientists. Schools, cultural centers, playgrounds, and clean streets reflected hope, pride, and ambition. Families moved in, believing they were part of something extraordinary. Engineers like Anatoly Dyatlov and Alexander Akimov were celebrated, regarded as the elite, the men who controlled immense power at the very edge of science. But even in a dream, shadows were forming. The night that changed everything. It was just past midnight when Reactor 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant began what was supposed to be a routine safety test, a simple check to see if the turbines could keep generating power during a temporary shutdown. But that night, things went terribly wrong. Inside the control room, tension hung thick in the air. The deputy chief engineer, Anatoly Dyatlov, a man known for his short temper and iron authority, pushed his exhausted crew to continue the test despite rising risk. They had been working for hours. The reactor wasn't stable, but Dyatlov wanted results, and orders weren't to be questioned in the Soviet system. Against every safety regulation, the reactor was running at dangerously low power. The operators pulled out most of the control rods, the only tools that could slow the chain reaction, in an attempt to raise the power level. The turbines began to slow, the pressure dropped, and deep inside the reactor, something terrifying began to happen. Without anyone realizing it, a deadly pocket of steam was forming. The temperature in the reactor core skyrocketed. Alarms started flashing across the panels, but confusion and panic delayed every response. Before anyone could react, it happened. At 1:23 a.m., a massive explosion shattered the night. A blinding blue-white flash lit up the sky, followed by a second, even more violent blast that tore through the roof. A 500-ton steel safety lid, heavier than a jumbo jet, was hurled into the air like a toy. The building disintegrated. Flames erupted from the core, and chunks of glowing graphite, pieces of the reactor itself, scattered across the grounds. Within seconds, radioactive dust began rising into the cold April air, and the fate of Pripyat was sealed. The longest goodbye. When the explosion tore through Reactor 4 in the middle of the night, the people of Pripyat slept peacefully in their beds, unaware that the world outside had already changed forever. There was no alarm, no warning siren, no announcement, just a distant rumble that some mistook for thunder and a faint tremor that made the curtains sway. By sunrise, a strange orange haze hung in the air. A dull metallic smell lingered. People noticed something odd, ash-like dust settling on their windowsills, the taste of metal on their tongues, and their throats feeling unusually dry. But no one knew that this wasn't dust. It was radioactive fallout. Children rode their bikes to school that morning, laughing, unaware that each breath they took carried invisible poison. Workers went to their offices, shops opened, and weddings even took place that day. Life carried on as if nothing had happened, because that's what they were told to do. The authorities insisted everything was under control. Just a small fire at the plant, they said. Nothing serious. But doctors at the local hospital were already seeing the signs. Firefighters and plant workers from the night before began arriving, vomiting, trembling, their skin red and blistering. Nurses washed their faces, not knowing they were washing off deadly radioactive particles with their bare hands. No one truly understood what was happening. They were told to stay calm, to wait for further instructions. For 36 long hours, the people of Pripyat lived inside a ticking time bomb. The city's air was poisoned, its food and water contaminated, but still, no evacuation. The Soviet Union feared panic more than radiation. Finally, on the afternoon of April 27, 1986, the truth could no longer be hidden. Military trucks rolled into the city and loudspeakers crackled to life, echoing through every street and apartment block. A calm but firm voice spoke. "Comrades, due to an incident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, you are requested to leave the city temporarily. Take essential belongings only. You will return return in a few days. The tone was casual, almost reassuring, as if this was just another precaution. People believed it. Why wouldn't they? No one imagined their city was dying. Residents packed what they could carry: a few clothes, some documents, bread, maybe a family photo. Parents told their children to grab their favorite toy. "We'll be back soon," they said. But most left their doors unlocked, their pets inside, the stove still warm from lunch. By evening, buses began to fill every street, nearly 1,200 of them in a line stretching for miles. Soldiers helped families board. Many of them didn't know the truth either. Mothers clutched babies. Teenagers joked nervously. Elderly couples looked out their windows one last time, silently tracing memories in their minds. Some people tried to take their pets with them, but they were ordered to leave them behind. The heartbreak of watching dogs chase after departing buses is something survivors still remember vividly. The animals waited for days, outside doorsteps, near schools, beside empty parks, long after their owners were gone. As the convoy moved out, Pripyat fell eerily quiet. Curtains fluttered in the windows of apartments that would never again be opened. Half-eaten meals sat on tables. Radios still played soft Soviet music. Children's toys were scattered on floors. It was as if the entire city had been paused mid-sentence. The people were told they'd return in 3 days, but they never did. Pripyat, once alive with laughter, families, and dreams, was now a ghost town. Within just a few hours, 50,000 lives were uprooted. The buses disappeared into the horizon, and all that remained was silence, a silence that still lingers almost 40 years later. It was not just an evacuation, it was the longest goodbye in human history. The silent heroes. While the city slept, a different battle raged within the plant. Firefighters, liquidators, and engineers ran into the inferno without protective gear, confronting a silent killer radiation. Men like Sasha Savchenko and his colleagues were the first to face the invisible enemy. Some survived, many did not. Skin burned black, flesh corroded from within, their bravery beyond imagination. They carried hoses, dragged debris, and tried to stabilize what was left of the reactor, knowing nothing could truly stop the invisible poison. These were not just workers. They were humans standing on the edge of annihilation, saving a world that could never thank them. Nature takes back its city. Decades later, Pripyat has become nature's domain. The Ferris wheel still turns in the wind. Classrooms are filled with dust, textbooks rotting on the floor. Trees grow through concrete, and wildlife roams freely. Even in this apparent calm, danger lingers. Radiation hotspots remain, invisible to the eye, but deadly to the touch. The city is no longer human. It is a museum of both ambition and caution, a reminder that even the most advanced creations can be fragile. Ghosts that still whisper every corner of Pripyat whisper stories. The hospital where patients once sought care is silent, its beds now home to dust and decay. Pumps, cables, and instruments are frozen in time. Even the smallest detail, a rusted grab bucket, a cracked meter, carries the memory of lives interrupted. The city may look calm now, but every building, every street corner is a warning. One wrong step, one careless touch, and the invisible radiation that lingers could take a life. Pripyat is not just a city frozen in time, it's a lesson etched in concrete. The tourists of yesterday. Today, Pripyat attracts a new kind of visitor, the curious, the adventurous, and those chasing a glimpse of history's ghost. Guided tours wind through empty classrooms, playgrounds, and abandoned apartments. Signs warn, do not touch, do not sit, do not linger. Visitors snap photos of rusting Ferris wheels and crumbling schools. They come seeking ghosts, but what they find is something more profound. Silence, resilience, and the eerie beauty of nature reclaiming what humanity once tried to control. A warning etched in concrete. Pripyat is more than a ghost town. It is a monument to human ambition, to pride, and to mistakes that cost lives. One test, one decision, turned dreams into nightmares. The explosion at Reactor 4 claimed lives, shattered families, and spread radiation across continents. Even now, the city tells a story of caution. It reminds us of the price of silence, the danger of arrogance, and the resilience of both nature and humans. For those who walk its empty streets, the message is clear. Progress without care can have consequences that echo for generations. If you listen closely, you can still hear the echoes, not of ghosts, but of lives that never got to finish their story. Pripyat remains, a city of memory, warning, and quiet beauty, frozen forever in time.